Hello everyone, here is chapter 4 of the shortcut through the mushrooms. Please listen.
Frodo woke up completely refreshed. He lay on a leafy shelter made from living trees with branches tied down and pulled to the ground. His bed was made of ferns and grass, deep, soft and strangely fragrant. The sun was shining through the swaying green leaves above. He jumped up and went outside. Sam was sitting on the grass, near the edge of the forest. Pippin was standing, looking at the sky and the weather. There was no sign of the elves. They left fruit, water and bread, Pippin said.
Come and eat your breakfast.
The bread is as good as if it had been baked last night. I don't want to leave any for you, but Sam insisted. Frodo sat down beside Sam and began eating. What's the plan for today? Pippin asked. Get to Bucklebury as quickly as possible, Frodo replied, focusing on his food. Do you think we'll see those black riders again? Pippin asked eagerly. In the bright morning, the prospect of encountering a whole group of such riders didn't frighten him much. Perhaps, Frodo said, not liking to dwell on it. But I hope we can cross the river without being noticed. Did Gildor tell you anything about them?
Not much, just directions and riddles, Frodo answered evasively. Did you ask about tracking?
We didn't discuss it, Frodo said, mouth full of food. You should have. I'm sure it's important. In that case, I'm sure Gildor would have refused to explain, Frodo replied shortly. Now leave me alone for a bit. I don't want to answer a string of questions while eating.
I need to think.
Good grief, Pippin said. About breakfast? He walked toward the green bank. In Frodo's mind, this radiant morning, especially bright, he thought, had dissipated the fear of being pursued. He was thinking about Gildor's words. Pippin's cheerful voice reached him. He was running across the green grass, singing, "No."
I cannot, he said to himself.
This is something that has taken my friends across the Shire with me until we were hungry and exhausted, the food and beds damp. To make them wanderers where hunger and fatigue may not be compensated at all is different, even if they are willing.
Only I am the heir. I don't even think I should take Sam along. He looked at Sam Gamgee and noticed Sam was watching him. Come now, Sam, he said. What's the matter?
I left the Shire as early as I could. I really thought to avoid even a day at Crickhollow if possible. That's fine, sir.
You still want to come with me? I still do. This will be very dangerous, Sam. It already is.
Perhaps none of us can ever turn back. If you don't turn back, sir, then neither will I, certainly, Sam said. Don't leave him behind.
They said that to me. Leave him? I said I would never do that.
I will go with him, even if he climbs the moon, and if any Black Rider tries to stop him, they'll have to deal with Sam Gamgee, he said. They laughed. Who are they, and what on earth are you talking about? About the elves, sir. We talked last night. It seems they already knew you would leave, and I see no point in trying to stop it. Those wonderful people, the elves, sir.
Wonderful.
Indeed, Frodo said. Do you still like them, after meeting them?
I both like and dislike them, that's it, Sam replied slowly.
It seems my opinion doesn't matter. They are quite different from what I expected, too old and too young, too joyful and too sad. Frodo looked at Sam with surprise, half expecting to see a strange change in him. It wasn't quite the old Sam Gamgee he knew. His face seemed unusually thoughtful. Do you feel the need to leave the Shire now? That desire to see them has been fulfilled? He asked. Yes, sir. I don't know how to explain it, but after last night I feel very different.
I feel like I can foresee in this way.
I know we'll travel a long way into darkness, but I know I cannot turn back. Right now I don't really want to see elves or dragons or mountains. I don't even know what I want, but I must do something before the end, and it lies ahead. Not here in the Shire. I must see it, sir. If you understand me, I don't quite understand. But I understand that Gandalf has chosen me as a companion. I am glad. We will go together. Frodo paused his breakfast in silence. Then he stood and looked across the land ahead, calling Pippin. Ready to start? He said as Pippin stood. We must go immediately. We've slept too long. There are still many miles to travel. You slept late, you mean? Pippin said. I've been up for quite some time. We were just waiting for you to eat and finish thinking. I will do those two things quickly. and I will reach the Buckleberry Ferry as soon as possible.
I won't leave the road, but will return to the path we left last night. I want to cut across the Shire from here. And then you'll fly? Pippin said.
You won't step across any part of the Shire. Anyway, we can take a more direct path across the Shire than the road, Frodo replied. The ferry lies east of Woodhall, but the road swings to the left. You can see a northern bend from here. It curves north of the Marish to go straight to the Stockbridge, but that path is miles longer. We could save a quarter of the distance if we go straight to the ferry from here. The shortcut will take longer, Pippin argued. Around the Shire it's rough, with marshes and difficulties below Marish. I know this area. And if you worry about the Black Riders, meeting them on the road isn't any worse than meeting them in the woods or fields. And finding someone in the woods or fields isn't easier, Frodo replied. If you go on the road, you have a chance of being seen. If you leave it, you don't. All right, Pippin said. I'll follow you through every marsh and ditch.
But it will be hard going.
I counted when I went to the Golden Barn at Stock before sunset. The best beer is in Eastfarthing, or used to be. It's been a long time since I tasted it. Then let's decide. The shortcut may take longer, but the inns would only delay us more. By any means, we must keep you away from the Golden Barn. We want to reach Buckleberry before dark. What do you say, Sam? I will go with you, Sir Frodo, Sam said, despite his personal fear and regret at missing the best beer in Eastfarthing. Then if we have to slog through marshes and heather, let's go, Pippin said. It was nearly as hot as before, but clouds were beginning to gather toward the west. It looked like rain was coming. The hobbits scrambled down a steep green slope and stepped into a stretch of greenery below. They had chosen to leave Woodhall to the left and cut diagonally across the forest divided along the east side of the hill until they reached the flat land below. Then they could go straight to the ferry across the village area, despite a few ditches and fences. Frodo estimated they still had 18 miles to go in a straight line. He quickly noticed that the bushes were growing closer together and more intertwined than before. There was no hidden path beneath, and they could not move very fast. As they struggled at the bottom of the slope, they discovered a stream running down the hills behind, with a slippery, deep stone bed full of thorny bushes. The most difficult part of it crossed the straight path they had chosen. They could not jump over it or truly cross it without getting wet, scratched, and muddy. They stopped, wondering what to do. First, we must check, Pippin said, smiling decisively. Sam Gamgee looked back. Through a gap between the trees, he caught a glimpse of the top of a green bank from where they had just descended.
Look, he said, grabbing Frodo's hand.
They both looked back and saw on the high bank above, silhouetted against the blue sky, a horse standing. Beside it was a dark figure. Immediately, they abandoned any thought of turning back. Frodo led the way and hurried into a dense thicket beside the stream. "Whew," he said to Pippin. "We were both right. The short path has truly become tricky, but we hid just in time."
You have sharp ears, Sam. Can you hear if something is coming?
They stood there, almost holding their breath as they listened. But there was no sound of pursuit. "I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to bring his horse down that bank," Sam said. "But I guess he knows we've gone down there. Better we move on." Continuing was not easy. They had to carry their belongings, and the bushes and brambles refused to let them pass. A gust of wind blew from the ridge behind them, and the air was still and stifling. When they finally reached the open land, they were overheated, exhausted, and scratched all over, no longer sure of the direction to go. The path along the stream was sandy as it led to higher banks and became broader and shallower, away from Marish and the river. "Ah, this is the Stock stream," Pippin said. "If we tried to return to the old path, we would have to cross it immediately and then turn right." They waded through the stream and hurried toward the open, chaotic land further ahead. They entered a belt of trees shortly afterward, mostly tall oaks with occasional elms or ashes. The ground here was fairly flat and slightly sunken, but the trees grew so close together that they could not see far. A sudden gust shook the branches, and raindrops began falling from the overcast sky. Then the wind died down, and the rain started pouring. They struggled to move as far as possible, crossing tufts of grass and thick layers of fallen leaves. The rain trickled over them. They did not speak, but kept glancing back and to the sides. After an hour, Pippin said, "I hope we haven't veered too far south and that we don't have to walk the whole length of this forest. This isn't a very wide belt, I think no more than a mile at its thickest, and now we should cut through it." "If we start zigzagging, it won't help," Frodo said. "It won't solve the problem. Let's go as planned. I'm not sure I want to emerge into open land right now." They continued for a few more miles. Then the sun broke through the clouds, and the rain gradually stopped. By now it was around midday, and they felt it was time for lunch. They stopped under an elm tree. Its fallen leaves, though yellowed, were still thick, and the ground beneath it was dry and shaded. When they prepared to eat, they found that the elves had filled some clear bottles with a pale yellow liquid. It smelled of honey made from many flowers and had a very restorative effect. They laughed heartily, mocking the rain and even the black riders. They felt that the last few miles would be easy to cross. Frodo leaned back against a tree and closed his eyes. Sam and Pippin sat nearby, humming and softly singing, "Ho! Ho! Ho! With the little bottle I drink, to heal my heart, and make my legs shake, the rain may fall and the wind may howl, and many miles still lie ahead, but then I'll rest under a tall tree, and let the clouds pass once ho."
Ho, ho! Then they began laughing loudly again.
Suddenly they stopped.
Frodo jumped up. A moaning sound echoed in the wind, like the cry of a ghostly, lonely creature.
It rose and fell, ending with a sharp, terrifying shriek. They froze in place as if turned to stone. Another cry, weaker and more distant, but equally horrifying, followed. Then silence returned, with only the wind playing through the leaves. "And what do you think that was?" Pippin finally asked, trying to whisper but trembling. "If it was a bird, I've never heard such a one before." "It's neither bird nor beast," Frodo said. "It's a call or a signal. The cry has meaning, though I don't understand it yet. But no hobbit would make such a sound." No one spoke further. They all thought of the Black Riders, but no one mentioned them. They neither wanted to stay nor to go on, yet sooner or later they would have to cross the open countryside to reach the ferry, and it was best to do so in daylight. After a while, they shouldered their packs and began moving. Soon the forest ended abruptly. Wide meadows stretched before them. Now they saw that they had indeed gone too far south. They could see the low hills at Bucklebury across the river, but they were now to the left. They carefully crept out of the tree line and began moving as quickly as possible across the open land. At first, they felt fear upon leaving the sheltered land. From far behind came the high ground where they had eaten breakfast. Frodo half expected to see a small rider silhouetted against the sky, but there was no sign of anyone. The sun emerged from scattered clouds, sinking behind the hills they had just left, and now shone again. Their fear lifted, though they still felt uneasy. The land seemed much more open and orderly. They quickly entered well-tended fields and pastures. There were fences, gates, and drainage ditches. Everything seemed quiet and peaceful, just like a normal corner of the Shire. Their spirits lifted with each step. The river boundary came closer, and the Black Riders now seemed like ghosts of the forest far behind. They crossed the edge of a field full of large turnips and entered a sturdy gate. Behind it lay a narrow road between low fences leading toward distant bushes. Pippin stopped. "I know these fields and this gate," he said. "This is Bamfalong, the land of old Farmer Maggot. His fields lie under those trees over there." "Trouble follows trouble," Frodo said, looking as if Pippin had just told him this road led to a dragon's lair. The others looked at him in surprise. "What about old Maggot?" Pippin asked. "He's a good friend to everyone in Brandybuck.
Of course, he's a terror to anyone trespassing or raising fierce dogs, since the people down there are near the border and must defend themselves more. I know, Frodo said.
But still, he added with an embarrassed laugh, I'm afraid of him and his dogs.
Year after year I had to sneak past his farm.
He caught me many times trespassing behind the mushrooms when I was little at the Great Barrow. The last time he beat me and brought me before his dogs.
See, boys, he said, next time if this lazy brat sets foot on my land, you can eat him.
Now watch him go. They chased me all the way to the ferry. I never forgot that fear, even though I dare say the creatures knew their business and wouldn't really touch me. Pippin laughed loudly.
All right, now it's time to face it, especially if you plan to live in Buckland again.
Old Maggot is truly brave. Just leave his mushrooms alone.
Let's go down the road and we won't be trespassers.
If we meet him, I'll speak. He's Merry's friend, and I've been there with him once before. They walked along the road until they saw the roofs of a large house and its outbuildings rising above the trees. The Maggot estate, Puddifoot's house of stock, and most of Marish's residents were homebodies, and this estate was built sturdily with bricks and surrounded by a high wall. A large wooden gate led out from the wall to the road. Suddenly dogs barked furiously as they approached, and a voice shouted, "Grip!
Fang, Wolf, come on, you lot!"
Frodo and Sam froze in fright, but Pippin stepped forward a few more steps. The gate opened, and 3 huge dogs charged onto the road, barking wildly. They ignored Pippin, but Sam stepped back cautiously, while 2 of the dogs sniffed him suspiciously and growled if he moved. The largest and fiercest dog stopped right in front of Frodo, hair bristling and growling. At that moment, a bearded hobbit with a round red face appeared in the doorway. "Hello, hello. Who are you and what do you want?" he asked. "Hello, Mr. Maggot," Pippin said. The farmer scrutinized him.
"Ah, isn't that Master Pippin Peregrine Took?"
he exclaimed, shifting from a scowl to a broad grin.
"Long time I haven't seen you."
"Lucky for you that I know you. I would have let my dogs attack any stranger. Today has been a strange day. Sometimes we do get odd visitors around here, too close to the river," he said, shaking his head. "But this fellow is the strangest I've seen. He wouldn't cross my land without retreating if I hadn't intervened." "Who do you mean?" Pippin asked.
"Didn't you see him?"
the farmer said. "He just rode up the road toward the embankment. But perhaps you should come inside and we can discuss these matters more comfortably. I have ale on the table if you and your companions are willing, Master Took." It seemed the farmer would say more if time and temperament allowed, so they accepted the invitation. "What about the dogs?" Frodo asked anxiously. The farmer laughed heartily. "They won't harm you unless I allow them."
"Come here, Grip! Fang, heel!"
he called. "Heel, Wolf!" To Frodo and Sam's relief, the dogs stepped aside and let them pass freely. Pippin introduced his 2 friends to the farmer.
"Mr. Frodo Baggins," he said.
"You may not remember him, but he used to live at the Great Barrow." At the mention of the name Baggins, the farmer's eyes widened, and he glanced sharply at Frodo. For a moment, Frodo thought memories of mushroom theft had returned, and the dogs would be commanded to chase him off. But the farmer took his hand. "Good heavens, is it really so?" he exclaimed. "Mr. Baggins, come in. We must talk." They went into the farmer's kitchen and sat beside a large hearth. Mrs. Maggot brought out ale in a large jug and poured 4 mugs. It was fine ale, and Pippin felt compensated for missing the Golden Stable Inn. Sam sipped his ale cautiously, naturally suspicious of strangers and unwilling to befriend anyone who had once beaten him, even long ago. After some small talk about weather and farming prospects, which were not worse than usual, Farmer Maggot set down his mug and looked around at them. "Now, Master Peregrine," he said, "where have you come from and where are you going? Surely you didn't come to visit me, for if so, you would have passed through the gate I couldn't see you at." "Oh no," Pippin replied. "Actually, as you guessed, we entered from the village road on the other side. We crossed your farm. But that was purely by chance. We got lost in the forest, returned via Woodhall, while trying to find a shortcut to the ferry. If you are in a hurry, the main road will be more useful," the farmer said. "But I am not overly concerned. You must go across my land if you think carefully, Master Peregrine."
And you, Mr. Baggins, even though I dare say you still fancy mushrooms. He laughed heartily. Ah, yes, I recognize the name.
I remembered young Frodo Baggins as one of the most mischievous in Buckland. But I am not thinking of mushrooms now. I had heard the name Baggins before you appeared. How do you feel knowing that odd fellow asked me about you? They waited with bated breath for him to continue. Well, the farmer continued slowly, drawing out attention. He rode a huge black horse through the farm gate, which was open, and dashed straight to my door. He was all in black from head to toe, wearing a cloak and hood, as if he didn't want anyone to see his face.
Now what does he want in the Shire? I thought.
We don't see many black riders crossing the border, and I have never heard of anyone like this black fellow.
Hello, I shouted to him.
This village road leads nowhere, and wherever you are going,
turn back as quickly as possible. I didn't like his appearance, and when Grip rushed forward,
it sniffed and yelped as if kicked, its tail drooped and it howled eerily. The black fellow stayed seated. I come from over there, he said, slowly and stiffly, pointing westward, over my farm, if you wish to know. Have you seen Baggins? He asked in a very strange voice, leaning toward me. I could see no face at all, for his hood hung low.
A chill ran down my spine. But I did not understand why he had dared to ride across my land so boldly. Go away, I said. No Baggins here. You're in the wrong part of the Shire. Best you return west toward Hobbiton, but now you can take the main road. Baggins has left there, he whispered.
It's on its way.
Not far. I want to find it.
If it passes here, will you tell me?
I will give you gold. No, I said.
Better return home quickly.
I'll give you a minute before I call all my dogs, he hissed softly.
Perhaps it was laughter or perhaps not. Then he spurred his huge horse toward me, and I barely leapt out of the way. I called the dogs, but he dashed off through the farm gate and up the road toward the embankment like a bolt of lightning. What do you make of that? Frodo sat for a while staring into the fire, thinking only of how they were to reach the ferry. I do not know what to think, he finally said. ChatGPT Janoi. Then I'll tell you what you ought to think, Maggot said. Never mix yourself up with the folk of Hobbiton, Mr. Frodo. The people up there are strange. Sam shifted uneasily in his seat, eyeing the farmer with distrust. But you've always been a reckless child. When I heard you had left Brandybuck and gone to old Mr. Bilbo, I thought you'd get into trouble. Mark my words, all of this comes from Bilbo's odd doings. His money was acquired in a strange way in strange lands, they say. Perhaps some people want to know where the golden treasure he buried on the hill in Hobbiton came from, as far as I know. Frodo said nothing. The farmer's sharp guesses made him rather uneasy. All right, Mr. Frodo, Maggot continued. I'm very glad you have come to your senses and returned to Buckland. My advice is stay there and don't consort with strangers. You will find friends in those places, and if any Black Rider comes after you, I'll deal with them. I'll say you're dead, or have left the Shire, or anything you wish. And that may even be true, for it seems they do not want news of Mr. Bilbo. Perhaps you're right, Frodo said, avoiding the farmer's gaze and staring into the fire.
Maggot looked at him thoughtfully.
Very well, I see you have your own ideas, he said. It's clear as day that it was no coincidence that you and that horseman came here on the same afternoon, and perhaps my news is not entirely surprising to you. I do not ask you to tell me everything you intend to keep to yourself, but I see you're in trouble. You may think it will not be easy to reach the ferry without being noticed.
I thought so, Frodo said.
But we must try, and sitting and thinking will solve nothing, so I fear we must go. Many thanks for your kindness. I was terrified of you and your dogs over 30 years ago, Farmer Maggot, though you may laugh at that. It is a pity, for I lost a good friend then, and now I apologize for leaving so soon. But I will return, perhaps one day, when I have the chance. You will be welcome when you come, Maggot said. But now I have an idea. The sun is near setting, and we will have a late meal, for we shall soon go to bed after sunset. If you, Master Peregrine, and your companions can stay and eat with us, we will be glad.
And so will we,
Frodo said. But we must go at once, I fear. The night will fall before we reach the ferry. Ah, but wait a minute. I meant to say, After the late meal, I will fetch a small cart and carry you all to the ferry. It will save you some distance, and it may also help you avoid trouble." At this, Frodo gratefully accepted the offer, to the relief of Pippin and Sam. The sun was behind the western hills, and the light was fading. Maggot's 2 sons and 3 daughters entered, and a hearty late meal was set upon the large table. The kitchen was lit by candles and a rekindled fire. Mrs. Maggot bustled about. 1 or 2 other hobbits from the farm also came in. Soon 14 hobbits were seated to eat. There was plenty of ale, a good quantity of mushrooms and salted meat, as well as many other farm dishes. The dogs lay by the fire, chewing cheese rinds and gnawing bones. When they finished eating, the farmer and his sons went out with a lantern and prepared the cart. The yard was already quite dark as the guests went outside. They threw their luggage onto the cart and climbed in. The farmer took the reins and cracked his whip at the 2 sturdy ponies. His wife stood in the light of the open doorway. "Careful now, Mr. Maggot," she called. "Do not argue with any stranger and come back at once."
"I will,"
he said, and drove the cart out of the gate. Now there was no wind, the night was still and silent, and the air was chill. They moved without any light and went very slowly. After a few miles, they left the village road, crossed a deep ditch, and climbed a short rise onto the embankment road.
Maggot leaned down and looked all around, north and south, but could see nothing in the darkness.
There was no sound in the quiet air. The riverbank appeared very dim. Mist was rising over the ditch and spreading across the fields.
"It will get very thick here," Maggot said.
"But I will not light a lamp until I am home. We will hear everything on the road from afar before we meet it." From Maggot's little village road to the ferry was a little over 5 miles. The hobbits wrapped themselves up, but their ears still listened to every creak of the wheels and clip-clop of the horses. Frodo felt the cart moved slower than a snail. Beside him, Pippin nodded off, but Sam stared intently at the rising mist. At last they reached the village road leading to the ferry, marked by 2 tall white posts faintly visible to their right. Farmer Maggot pulled in the ponies, and the creaking cart came to a stop. They had barely settled when suddenly they heard what everyone feared, the sound of hooves on the road ahead. The echo came straight toward them.
Maggot leapt down, standing before the horses, staring into the dark.
The horsemen approached, hooves clattering. The sound of hooves rang sharply through the still, misty air. "You'd better hide, Mr. Frodo," Sam said anxiously.
Get down from the cart and cover yourself, and we'll lure that rider away."
He climbed out and went to the farmer. The black riders would have to get past him to reach the cart. Clop, clop. The horseman was near. "Hello!"
Farmer Maggot shouted.
The sound of hooves stopped immediately. They thought they could faintly see a black cloak in the mist a few meters away. "Now!" the farmer said, tossing the reins to Sam and stepping forward.
"Why do you not come closer?"
"What do you want, and where are you going?"
"I want Mr. Baggins. Have you seen him?" A hoarse voice called out. But it was Merry Brandybuck. A dim lantern was lifted, and its light fell on the astonished farmer's face.
"Master Merry!" he exclaimed.
"Yes, of course. Who did you think it was?"
Merry said, stepping forward. As he emerged from the mist and their fear lessened, he seemed to shrink to the normal size of a hobbit. He was riding a small pony, and a bandage wrapped around his neck and across his chin stood out from the mist. Frodo ran from the cart to greet his friend.
"At last you've come,"
Merry said.
"I was beginning to wonder if you would ever arrive, and I meant to return for a late meal."
"When the mist grew thicker, I rode toward Stock to see if you had fallen into a ditch. But God bless me if I knew how you would come. Where did you find them, Mr. Maggot? In your duck pond?" "No, I saw them sneaking into my place," the farmer said. "I almost sent the dogs after them, but they will tell you everything, I trust. Now, if you will excuse me, Master Merry and Mr. Frodo and all, I will return home. Mrs. Maggot will be worried as night grows late." He guided the cart onto the village road and turned it around. "Now farewell to you all," he said. "Today has been too strange to be mistaken, but all will end well. Though perhaps we should not say so until we reach the gate. I will not deny that I shall be glad when I do this." He lit his lanterns and hung them up. Suddenly, he took a large bag from under the seat.
"Almost forgot," he said. "Mrs. Maggot made this for Mr. Baggins with her regards." He handed it down and drove off, with thanks and blessings following.
They watched the faint circles of light around his lanterns shrink in the night mist. Suddenly Frodo laughed out loud. From the tightly closed bag he held, the smell of mushrooms was rising. Chapter: The Unveiling of the Mystery. "Now we had better get home," Merry said. "I feel there's something odd about all this, but let's wait until we get there." They returned to the road leading to the ferry, a straight, well-kept road, lined with white stones on either side. It took them about 100 yards to reach the riverbank, where there was a large wooden quay. A big ferry was moored there. A post near the water shone in the light from 2 lamps on tall poles above. Behind them, the mist over the flat fields now rose above the fences, but the water in front of them was clear, with only a few wisps of fog curling like steam among the reeds at the edge. It seemed that the far bank was less misty. Merry led the pony through the ferry's entrance, and the others followed. Merry pushed it along slowly with a long pole. The Brandywine River flowed slowly before them. The far bank rose steeply, and on it ran a road leading up to the distant lands. Lanterns twinkled there. Beyond it lay Buck Hill, dim in the mist, and beyond the veil of fog were many round windows glowing yellow and red. They were the windows of Brandywine Hall, the old house of the Brandybucks. Long ago, Gorhendad Oldbuck, head of the Oldbuck family, one of the oldest in the Marish, or indeed in the whole Shire, had crossed the river, which had originally marked the boundary of the lands to the east. He had built, or dug up, Brandywine Hall, changed his name to Brandybuck, and settled there to become the master of a small, quasi-independent domain. His family gradually grew, and after his death it grew even more, until Brandywine Hall occupied the whole small hill, with 3 large front doors, many side doors, and about 100 windows. The Brandybucks and their numerous servants began digging and then building all around. This was the beginning of Buckland, a densely settled tract between the river and the old forest, a sort of Shire colony. Their main village was Bucklebury, set apart on the banks and cliffs behind Brandywine Hall. The folk of the Marish were very friendly with the Bucklanders, and the head of the house, the Brandybuck family leader, was still known to the farmers between Stock and Rushy. But most of the old Shire still considered the Bucklanders odd, as if half living abroad. Still, they were quite different from other hobbits in the Four Farthings. Except for one point, they loved boating, and some of them could swim. Their lands were initially unprotected to the east, but there they had built a fence, the High Hedge. It had been planted over many generations and was now dense and well kept. It stretched along the roads at Brandywine Bridge in a large circle from the river, leading to Hazend, from where the Withywindle flowed out of the forest to Brandywine Hall, running some 20 miles. But, of course, it was not a perfect defence. The forest still came quite close to the hedge in many places. In the evenings the Bucklanders always locked their doors, which was uncommon in the Shire. The ferry moved slowly across the water. The Buckland stream was near. Sam was the only member of the party who had never been to this river. He felt a strange sensation as the river slowly lapped by. His old life lay behind the mist, and a dark adventure stretched ahead. He scratched his head, and for a moment a fleeting wish crossed his mind that Mr. Frodo might continue to live peacefully at Bag End. The 4 hobbits stepped off the ferry. Merry tied it up, and Pippin led the pony onto the roadway, where Sam, glancing back as if to bid farewell to the Shire, whispered hoarsely, "Look behind, Mr. Frodo."
"Do you see anything?"
From afar, beneath the dim lamps, they could make out a shape like a dark crowd behind them. But as they looked, it seemed to move and sway, as if searching the ground. It crept forward, or crouched, retreating into the darkness behind the lamps. "What's this in the Shire?" Merry called out. "Something is following us," Frodo said.
"But Ask nothing now.
Let's move on. They hurried along the road up the riverbank, but looking back, the distant channel was shrouded in mist and nothing could be seen. "Thank goodness you didn't leave any boat on the west bank," Frodo said. "Can the ponies ford the river?" "They could go 20 miles north to Brandywine Bridge, or they could swim across," Merry replied. "Though I have never heard of any ponies swimming across the Brandywine. But what else could ponies do? I'll tell you later. Let's hurry home and we can talk, all right? You and Pippin know the way. I'll ride ahead and tell Fat Bulger you're coming. We'll have supper and everything." "We already had a late meal with Farmer Maggot," Frodo said.
"But we can eat another. You shall. Give me this basket,"
Merry said, and spurred his horse forward into the darkness. From the Brandywine to Frodo's new home at Crickhollow was still some distance. They passed Buck Hill and Brandywine Hall to their left and rode along the outskirts of Bucklebury to the main Buckland Road leading south of the bridge. About half a mile along the northward stretch, they turned onto a road that opened to the right. They followed it for a few miles as it rose and fell into the village. Finally, they entered a narrow gate in a thick hedge. In the dark, nothing of the house could be seen. It stood on a village lane within a wide circle of grass, bordered by low trees inside an outer fence. Frodo had chosen it because it lay partly inside, partly outside the village corner, and no one lived nearby.
One could come and go unnoticed.
It had been built long ago by the Brandybucks for hosting guests, or for family members wishing to escape the lively life at Brandywine Hall for a time. It was a quaint country-style house, much like a hobbit hole in every respect, long and low, no stairs, a turf roof, common windows, and a large round door. As they moved along the green lane leading from the gate, there was no light. The windows were dark and shuttered. Frodo knocked and Fat Bulger opened it. A friendly light spilled out. They quickly entered and closed the door. They were in a spacious room with doors in all directions.
Ahead was a passage leading into the heart of the house. "Well, what do you think?"
Merry asked as they entered the passage. "We've done all we could in a short time to make it look like a home."
"After all, Fat Bulger and I only unloaded the last shipment yesterday." Frodo looked around.
It felt like home. Many of his favourite things, or Bilbo's items, they remembered him fondly from the recent sale, had been arranged roughly as they were at Bag End. The place was cosy, comfortable, and convenient. He found himself wishing he could really settle here for his old age. It seemed unfair to involve his friends in trouble, and he wondered again how he could tell them he must leave soon, indeed, immediately. But it had to be done tonight, before everyone went to bed. "How delightful," he forced himself to say.
"I can hardly believe I've actually moved house." The travellers hung up coats and set down their luggage.
Merry led them down a passage and opened a door in a distant corner. Light spilled out and steam rose. "A bathroom," Pippin exclaimed. "Oh, bless Meriadoc!"
"And the order of precedence?"
Frodo said. "Oldest first or fastest first. In any case, you will be last, Master Peregrine." "Trust me to sort things out better than that," Merry said. "We cannot start life at Crickhollow with an argument about the bath. There are 3 tubs in there, and a barrel of hot water for washing clothes. Towels, mats, and soap are all ready."
"Get inside and hurry up."
Merry and Fat Bulger went down the other side of the passage toward the kitchen, busy with last-minute preparations for a late supper. Snatches of song drifted from the bathroom, mingling with the splashing sounds of water. Pippin's voice suddenly soared above the others in one of Bilbo's favourite bath-time songs. "Sing now! Bathe away the day's dust, wash this mud so fast it must. The fool who does not sing aloud hot water drives away all clouds." The sound of water like fairy rain, like a stream flowing across hill and plain. Drizzle and brook, gentle and mild, a stream of hot water heals, reconciled. Cold water quenches thirst so quick, driving away sadness, offering trick. But better still, fresh ale to sip, with hot water pouring to warm the hip. Water runs from the common tub, sparkling countless stars mid-heaven above. But which water is sweeter, say? This hot water warming my feet today. Then there was a sudden splash, followed by Frodo shouting, "Whoa!" as if Pippin's bathwater had shot high like a fountain. Merry stepped to the door. "How about some supper and a bit of ale down the hatch?" he called. Frodo stepped out to dry his hair. "There's been far too much water in the air already."
I must go to the kitchen to put a stop to it. Ah!
Merry said, peering in. The stone floor was now covered with water. "You should wipe it up before eating anything." "Peregrine," he said, "hurry, or we won't wait." They ate supper in the kitchen at a table near the fire.
I trust you don't want any more mushrooms?
Fredegar said, though he had little hope.
Yes, indeed, Pippin answered. They're mine.
Frodo said, "Mrs. Maggot gave them to me. She is a queen among farm wives. Lay aside your greed, I will take care of them." Hobbits loved mushrooms more than the greediest grown-ups. This partly explained why, as a young hobbit, Frodo often enjoyed visiting the famous fields in the Marish, and why Maggot had been so angry. Such things were serious indeed, even by hobbit standards. There were many other dishes as well, and by the time they finished, even Fat Bolger breathed a sigh of relief. They cleared the table and stacked chairs by the hearth. "We'll wash up later," Merry said. "Now tell me everything. I suppose you've had an adventure, and it's not fair I wasn't part of it."
I want to know all.
"And most of all about old Mr. Maggot, and why he spoke to me as he did." His voice sounded terrified, if indeed it was so. "We were all terrified," Pippin said after a pause, while Frodo stared into the fire, saying nothing. "You would be too, if the Black Riders pursued you for 2 days straight?" "Who are they?" "The black shapes riding black horses," Pippin replied. "If Frodo won't speak, I'll tell you everything from the start." Then he recounted the whole story of their journey since leaving Hobbiton. Sam added nods of agreement and various exclamations. Frodo remained silent. "I had thought you'd made the whole thing up," Merry said, "if I hadn't also seen a black shape at the ferry and heard old Maggot's strange voice."
How is all this, Frodo?
"Mr. Frodo is tight-lipped," Pippin said. "But now it's time he spoke. Until this moment, we knew nothing except Farmer Maggot's guesses that something was up with old Bilbo's treasure." "That was only a guess," Frodo said hurriedly. "Old Maggot knows nothing." "Old Maggot is wise," Merry said. "It's hard to tell what he is thinking behind his words. I've heard he once went into the old forest and is reputed to know many strange things. But at least you can tell us, Frodo, whether you think his guesses are right or wrong." "I think," Frodo replied slowly, "the guesses are correct, insofar as they go. There is a connection between old Bilbo's past adventures and the riders seeking or perhaps hunting him or me. I'm also afraid, if you want to know, that this is no jest, and I am not safe here, nor anywhere." He glanced at the windows and walls, imagining they could suddenly appear. The others watched him silently, exchanging meaningful glances. "It will be revealed in an instant," Pippin whispered to Merry. Merry nodded. "All right." Frodo finally said, sitting up straight as if having made a decision,
I cannot keep this secret any longer. I have something to tell all of you.
"But I don't know how to begin." "I think I can help," Merry said quietly, "by saying a little myself first." "What do you mean?" Frodo asked, looking at his friend anxiously.
It's just this, old friend Frodo. You are in anguish because you don't know how to say farewell.
"You are leaving the Shire, of course. But danger has come sooner than you expected, and now you must decide immediately."
And you do not wish it.
"We sympathize with you." ChatGPT Junnoi. Frodo gaped, then shut his mouth immediately. His look of astonishment was so complete that everyone burst out laughing. "My dear old Frodo," Pippin said, "do you really think you've fooled all of us? You can't be that careful or clever. It's obvious you had been preparing to leave and say farewell to all your usual haunts since April. We often heard you muttering,
'I don't know if I shall ever look upon this valley again,' and things like that. And then you pretended to be out of money and actually sold your beloved Bag End to the Sackville Bagginses.
And then there were Gandalf's whispered words, too." "Good heavens," Frodo said.
I thought I had been careful and wise. I didn't know what Gandalf had said.
So the whole Shire is talking about my journey?
Oh no, Merry said.
Don't worry about that. Of course, the secret couldn't stay forever, but right now I think it's only our little conspirators who know. Anyway, you must remember, we know you very well, we are familiar with you. We can often guess what you are thinking. I know old Bilbo too. Truthfully, I've been watching you closely since he left. I thought sooner or later you would follow him. In fact, I expected you to leave even earlier, and recently we began to worry. We feared you might slip away from us and vanish suddenly alone like he did. Each spring we would open our eyes wide and discuss it among ourselves. You cannot escape that easily.
But I must go, Frodo said.
This cannot be avoided, my friends. It is sorrowful for all of us, but trying to hold me back will accomplish nothing. Since you've guessed so much already, please help me and do not hinder me any further.
You don't understand,
Pippin said.
You must go, and so we must go with you.
Merry and I will accompany you. Sam is a marvelous fellow. He'd leap into a dragon's mouth to save you if you slipped, but you will need more than one companion on this perilous journey. Oh, my dearest hobbits, Frodo cried, deeply moved.
But I cannot allow it.
I have already made this decision long ago. You speak of danger, but you do not fully understand. This is no treasure hunt, no journey out and back.
I am moving from one deadly peril to another. Of course we understand, Merry said firmly.
That is why we have decided to come along. We know the ring is no laughing matter, but we will do everything we can to help you against the enemy. The ring!
Frodo exclaimed, now completely astonished.
Yes, the ring, Merry said. My dear old hobbit friend, you have not paid attention to the curiosity of your friends. I have known about the existence of the ring for years, long before Bilbo left, truly. But since he clearly treated it as a secret, I kept it to myself until our little plan took shape. Of course, I did not know Bilbo as well as I know you. I was still quite young, and he was more careful. But even he was not careful enough. If you want to know how I discovered it in the first place, I will tell you. Go on, Frodo said weakly. The Sackville Bagginses were in a state of agitation, as you might have expected. One day, the day before the party, I happened to be walking along the road when I saw Bilbo ahead. Suddenly, the Sackville Bagginses appeared from afar, heading toward us. Bilbo slowed down, and then, quick as a flash, he disappeared. I was so astonished that I could not think of pursuing him in the usual way, but I leapt over the fence and walked into the inner lands. I looked down the road after the Sackville Bagginses had passed, and I looked straight toward Bilbo when he suddenly reappeared.
I saw a flash of gold as he tucked something back into his long pocket. After that, I kept watch.
I must admit I did some spying, but you must admit it was very exciting, and I was only just coming of age.
I am probably the only one in the Shire, besides you, Frodo, who ever read that old man's secret book. You read his book,
Frodo exclaimed.
Heavens above.
Is nothing safe? Not entirely safe, I suppose, Merry said. But I only glanced through it, and it was very difficult to do. He never let the book out of his sight.
I wondered what it contained. I had to find a way to see it again.
Do you understand, Frodo? No, it's no longer at Bag End. He took it with him. Ah, yes, Merry continued. I kept my own counsel until spring, when matters became serious. That's when we formed our plan, and since we were serious, really acting, we were not overly cautious. You were not an easy nut to crack, and Gandalf is even worse. But if you want to meet the captain of our investigative team, I can introduce him to you. Who is that? Frodo asked, looking around as if expecting some masked villain to step out of the cupboard. Step forward, Sam, Merry said. And Sam rose straight up, his face crimson to the ears. This is our information gatherer. And he has gathered quite a lot, I can tell you, before he was finally discovered. After that, I can say he seemed bound by his own sense of duty and became tight-lipped. Sam! Frodo cried, astonishment so complete that he could not tell whether he was angry, delighted, relieved, or simply dazed. Yes, sir,
Sam said. Pardon me, sir.
But I want to say that it has done you no harm at all, Sir Frodo, nor to Mr. Gandalf. He had partly guessed, sir, And when you said you would go alone, he said no. Take someone you can trust. But that does not mean I can trust just anyone, Frodo said, looking sadly at him. That depends on what you wish, Merry said.
You can trust us to go through life and death with you to the dreadful end.
And you can trust us to keep your secrets, more secret than you keep them yourself. But you cannot allow us to let you face hardships alone and leave without saying a word. We are friends, Frodo, and anyway, things are as they are. We know most of what Gandalf told you. We know quite a bit about the ring. We have been frightened too, but we will go with you, or follow you like hounds. And after all, sir, Sam added, you ought to follow the advice of the elves. Gildor said you should willingly do so.
And you cannot refuse it. I do not refuse it, Frodo said, looking at Sam, who grinned broadly.
I do not refuse it, but I will never trust you sleeping again whether you snore or not.
I will kick you hard to make sure, you rascally, deceitful lot you are,
he said, turning to the others.
But God bless you all.
He laughed, stood up, and waved his arms. I give in. I will follow Gildor's advice. If the danger were not so dark, I would be dancing for joy. Yet I cannot help but be joyful, more joyful than I have been in a long time. Tonight I was thoroughly frightened, all right. Then everything is settled. 3 cheers for Captain Frodo and his friends. They shouted, and they danced around him. Merry and Pippin began to sing loudly, as if they had prepared for this moment. It was a sort of dwarf song, like the songs sung at the start of Bilbo's adventure long ago. In the same tune, we bid farewell to the hearth of old through winds howl, through rains roar. We must go before dawn across forest, over deep mountains to Rivendell, where the elves dwell. To misty lands stretching far across open fields, we march relentlessly. Who knows where we shall go with enemies ahead? With terror behind under starry skies, we make our beds. Until our weariness reaches its end, our journey done, our purpose fulfilled. We must go quickly.
We must go quickly.
We must saddle before dawn. Very well, Frodo said. But in this case there will be many things to do before we go to bed, under this roof tonight at any cost. Oh, how romantic, Pippin said.
Do you really wish to start before dawn? I do not know, Frodo said.
I fear those black riders, and I'm sure staying too long would not be safe, especially in a place everyone knows about. Gildor also advised not to wait. But I very much want to see Gandalf. I can see that even Gildor was puzzled when he heard Gandalf had not appeared. Is it really a matter of 2 things? When will the Black Riders come to Bucklebury? And when shall we depart? We will need considerable preparation. The answer is the second question, Merry said. We can leave within an hour.
I have truly prepared everything.
There are 6 ponies in the stable outside the fields. Gear and supplies are packed, except for a few extra clothes and perishable food. Sounds like a complete plan, Frodo said. But what about the Black Riders? Would waiting for Gandalf here be safe? That depends on what you think the Black Riders might do if they find you here, Merry replied. They might come at any moment, of course, unless they are held at the North Gate, where the fence falls to the river just by the bridge. The gatekeepers will not let them pass at night, though they could try.
Even by day, I think they would not be allowed through until they received word from the master of the house, for they do not like the Black Riders' appearance and naturally fear them.
But, of course, Buckland cannot withstand a determined attack for long, and it is possible that even this morning a Black Rider might come and ask if Mr. Baggins has passed here. Nearly everyone knows you will be living at Crick Hollow. Frodo sat thinking for a moment. I have decided, he finally said. Tomorrow I shall begin at first light. But I will not go on the road. Waiting here is safer than going there. If I pass through the North Gate, the departure will be discovered immediately instead of keeping it secret for several days if possible. Moreover, the bridge and East Road near the boundary will certainly be watched, whether a rider enters Buckland or not. We do not know how many there are.
At least 2 and possibly more.
The only way is to start from an unexpected direction. But that can only be into the old forest. Fredegar exclaimed in alarm. You cannot think of that. It is even more dangerous than the Black Riders. No, Merry said. Though it seems daring, I believe Frodo is right. That is the only way to go without being followed. If we are lucky, we may get an ideal start. But you will have no luck in the old forest, Fredegar objected. No one ever does. You will get lost.
People do not travel that way. Oh, they do,
Merry said. The Brandybucks sometimes go there on a whim. We have a private path. Frodo went there once long ago. I have gone many times. Usually by day, of course, when the trees sleep and it is completely quiet. All right, do what you think best, Fredegar said.
I worry about the old forest more than anything I have known.
Its tales are a nightmare, but, in my opinion, it is light, since I am not taking part in this journey. I will be glad if someone stays behind to inform Gandalf of what you have done when he appears. I believe he will come at once. Still fond of Frodo, Fat Bolger did not wish to leave the Shire or see what lay beyond it. His family came from the East Farthing, from Budgeford, precisely Bridgefields, but he had never been beyond the Great Barrow. His role, according to the original plan, was to stay behind to deal with the curious, to pretend as long as possible that Mr. Baggins was still at Crickhollow. He even took some of Frodo's old clothes to help him play the part. They did not give much thought to possible dangers.
Excellent,
Frodo said, understanding the plan. Otherwise we could not leave any message for Gandalf. I do not know if those riders might read it, but certainly I should not risk writing a letter back in case they searched the house. But if Fat Bolger is willing, I am sure Gandalf will know the path we have chosen. I shall enter the old forest at first light tomorrow. Exactly so, Pippin said. Personally, I still prefer our task over Fat Bolger's waiting here until the Black Riders arrive. Wait until you are safely in the forest first, Fredegar said. Then you will wish you were back here with me by this time tomorrow. No need to argue further, Merry said. We will need to reorganize and finish packing before going to bed.
I will wake you all before dawn. When he finally went to bed, Frodo could not sleep for some time.
His legs ached. He was eager to ride at dawn. At last, he fell into a fitful dream in which he seemed to be looking out from a high window over a tangle of trees. Below, along the roots, were sounds of animals crawling and sniffing. He was sure they would soon detect him. Then he heard a noise in the distance. At first, he thought it was a strong wind blowing through the leaves. Then he realized it was not leaves, but the sound of the sea far away, a sound he had never heard awake, though it often disturbed him in dreams. Suddenly he found himself in open space, no trees at all. He was on a dark heather hill, and there was a strange smell in the air. Looking up, he saw before him a tall white tower, standing alone on a high peak. A fierce longing urged him to climb the tower to see the sea. He began to climb the mountain top toward the tower, and suddenly a shaft of light cut across the sky, and a thunderclap sounded.